Hello, my noble band of outlaws. Outlaw Samurai coming at you live with a video with ginger beer. No, it is not alcoholic. It's just what the Brits and the Aussies call ginger ale. Damn, that's good. In any case, we are here today for the review of the hanwei raptor nanbokucho zukiri raptor. And I will not be doing the comparison between this and its little sister, the unokubi, in this video, unokubi. Gargoyle says unokubi, I say unokubi. It's kind of a pronunciation thing. But in any case, I will start with my usual Gold of Athena specs versus my own. The description reads, designed under the auspicious of cutting master. Designed under the supervision of cutting master James Williams, the hanwei Raptor series has been created for the cutting practitioner who does not necessarily have access to mats, but who wishes to practice and perfect his cutting technique. The blades are forged in 5160 high carbon spring steel, specifically heat treated to produce very high resilience and greater tolerance of misdirected cuts than conventional differentially hardened blades. This steel structure also avoids the need for excess thickness, allowing the blades to replicate and the weight and handling characteristics of the Japanese originals they are inspired from. The edge geometry is configured to facilitate the cutting of both soft and semi-hard materials. This means pretty much anything from water bottles to bamboo to tatami mats, without chipping, allowing the cutter a wide choice of targets. The specifications for this blade read as follows: 44¼ inches overall, a 30-inch nagasa or blade length, 2 pounds 13.5 ounces, edge sharpness. Well, it says sharp here, but no Sharpie till I got my hands on it. 32.3 millimeters wide at the habaki, 8.3 millimeters at the habaki, 5.3 millimeters at the tip. So about a 3% distal taper by the looks of things. No pommel. Point of bounds is 5 3/8 inches. I'm assuming from the guard, not habaki. Grip length is 13¼ inches. Blade material is again 5160 high carbon spring steel. The type is katana. Class battle ready. Culture Japanese. Manufacturer hanwei. And country of origin is old China. Yep, China. Now, we shall now be matching these specifications. And I'm going to be breaking this video up into segments for the sake of saving some time. So this is going to be the first part in the comparison of the measurements. 44¼ inches overall length. Overall length of mine just shy of 44 inches. 43¾ of an inch overall length for mine. Now, to play devil's advocate, we will do sheath for this one as well. So with saya. Okay, it's with the saya that they got that 44¾ of an inch measurement. I don't count the saya as a measurement of overall length. I count from tip to end for overall length. So we're missing a solid inch then in length. The nagasa is 30 inches. 30 inches exact is what I measure. Sharpness, we already know. I put my standard stupid edge on this. The width says in millimeters. Hold on, let me convert that to freedom units. So 32.3 millimeter. Make sure that's zeroed. 32.3. One and just a few fractions of an inch wider than 1¼ inches. 1.27. But my calibers are actually reading from the tip of the mune to the tip of the spine 1.31 inches, or filthy imperial, 33.3 millimeters. Thickness at base of habaki. .28 of an inch, just a little over 1/4 of an inch thick. 7.2 millimeters, so Cult of Athena is a whole 1.1 millimeters off at the base of the habaki. Then quarter up the blade. 0.28 millimeters. Quarter up the blade. 28 of an inch. Halfway up the blade. 0.24 of an inch. 3/4 up the blade. 0.20 seconds, and at the very tippy tip of the blade, 0.12 of an inch, or 3.2 millimeters. So we're 2.1 millimeters thinner at the tip than what it says on Cult of Athena at 5.3. 2.1 actually. And I was having a little bit of trouble getting the measurements exactly right. But we can see that it's roughly, like I said, a 3% distal taper. Now, that we've gotten all the lengths and shuts out of the way, we will do weight. The weight of this sword, again, is 2 pounds, 13½ ounces. Mine tops at 2 pounds, 15.8 ounces. Let me try something though. Laying the blade completely flat, it's a almost perfect 3 pounds. 3 pounds, 0.1 of an ounce. Laying it perfectly flat. Standing it up like so. It's 2 pounds, 15 ounces. So I'm going to actually say that having all the weight down I'm going to call it at 2 pounds 5 ounce at 2 pounds 15.8 ounces. So it's 2.3 ounces heavier than what Cult of Athena says it is. Okay. And now with the measurements out of the way, we're going to cut to Future Outlaw as he takes the sword apart. Go ahead, Future Outlaw. And we are back with Future Outlaw. And, yeah. Stupid sharp edge. But that will not deter me. I have the sword apart before me. And first thing we will take a look at is the Suka core. It's got some metal shavings inside of it. And some sort of weird oily residue. This appears to be some sort of shim. Or something in here. Ah, well, I'll just leave it. So, they had to shim the Nakago to get it to fit. And this weird, chunky black stuff on here, I'm not entirely sure what it is. Doesn't particularly look damaging. It kind of looks like there was wood. It kind of looks like it's just burnt compressed wood. Like they put it on a glowing hot plate and just pressed it down. And just like on the unobukuri, see right there? There's a fucking crack. Right there. Right here. There you go. That dark line right there, that's a fucking crack. I mean, okay. I will give it this. Look, upon closer examination, the crack only goes down to where the fushira stops. So it's just a crack right down where the carving for the fushira is. So I don't think it's a structural failure. It's more just like a cosmetic thing that you're never really going to see. Inside the fushira, it's very rough. They did not take the time to finish the inside of this. And honestly, that cut's ugly as hell. I'm being nitpicky here because we always hear about how great and how wonderful hanwei's fittings are. And yes, the eagle is crisp and clean, but even if you're not going to see something, you can tell how much effort was put in by how the finish work is on the fittings. Now, I get it. Most people are never going to take a sword apart like I just did. And most people are never going to see this if they don't take the sword apart. But practitioners like ourselves, we do take the sword apart. And I actually have a safety concern with the Nakago that I'll get to in a moment. But there's the Fushira. Real Samegawa ray skin. No large nodules. The Samegawa is panels. It's not a full wrap. I didn't expect a full wrap. Like I said, there's not much I can say about this, considering the fittings are interchange. All the same fittings go on the same line of swords. It's just the blade geometries and sizes are different between the Raptors. For some reason, they decided to put this weird oily substance all throughout the blade. The habaki's nothing to write home about. It's just a small, simple, little brass habaki that you'd find on thousands of katana wherever you look. But I do have to say, it feels of a much higher quality. It's much thicker than a lot of my other habakis, and it feels of a much higher quality than on my other habakis, except for the fact that it's bent. The habaki is actually bent. You can see. So yeah, hanwei. I don't know what fumes your forge masters are breathing in, but you might want to go and check on them, my boys. Again, the Suba also is nothing unique or special. Same eagle motif as all the others. Really, I sound lackluster in this section, and that's because there's really not much to say in this section. Now, as we can see, that Nakago is a beast. It's a big, thick boy. Big, thick, and long. Starts here, ends here. Okay? It's a big, thick boy. They did leave a burr around the Mikugi Ana, which are the holes for the... Sorry about that. Which are the holes for the Mikugi to go in. And the lines on the back of the Nakago, they're pretty much 90 degrees and sharp. All these lines will have crisp and sharp, which gives the Nakago a very professional looking appearance, which I kind of like. And ooh, there's even a signature. I think this is the first time I've gotten a blade with a signature on it. That's nice. Now, if you notice, you'll have noticed what I may consider a safety concern as I showed you the signature. It's the placement of the Mikugi Ana, or the Mikugi holes. This one is perfectly fine. Right? There's plenty of steel in front and behind that hole that I don't have to worry about it breaking. But this one not so much. Look at how little steel is in front of that hole. And I know what you're going to say, outlaw, historical antique katanas also have holes that are very close to the edge of the nakago. True, but even if they are close to the nakago on those traditional katanas still have about this much steel between the hole and the actual edge of the nakago. Not like this. And I know what you're going to say, oh, there's so little possibility of that breaking. But here's the thing. It's still a possibility of this flimsy little piece of steel breaking over time and over use. I would have much preferred the hole be drilled back where the central ridge line of the nakago would be. Historically, that's where they were supposed to be drilled. Either directly on the central ridge line of the nakago or just on its other side. So that the makugi holes would be in the heart of the steel, would be in the heart of the nakago and not cause any kind of structural integrity issues. I know personally that this is not going to really affect the sword's functionality and handling. I know that it's more of a nitpicking gripe because it is still of semi-appropriate thickness and it still is steel, modern steel to boot, so it's not going to just become flimsy and weak all of a sudden. But still, it's something there that I feel is a safety issue, especially if you decide to customize, if you buy a sword like this and customize it with like steel pins or brass pins, which some people do, and you're swinging the sword, those brass pins will more than likely push out onto the steel more than a wooden pin. A wooden pin will deform, and then you'll just have to knock it out with a hole punch. Brass pins bend and stay in place. Okay, they have to either be drilled or melted out. And that ruins tempering. So, it is a bit of a safety concern, but that's pretty much the only safety concern I have with this sword at this time. So, once I put this thing back together, we'll go back to past Outlaw for the final thoughts and conclusion of the sword. Take it away, past Outlaw. That's right! I got you, didn't I, my noble outlaws? I think the light reflecting off the mask is doing something to the camera, but in any case, that's right. Jason Voorhees video. Comment down below if you want to see me wear the mask and the rest of these. I still have Revenant Zombie Jason's videos to do, and then I also have Jason X, and even I'm planning to do the whole Jason power scale thing. Me fighting all the versions of Jason. Now, I'm going to lump Jason from part 3 and part 4 together, which is this Jason right here. Simply because both part 3 and part 4, Jason is still human. He's at his most powerful in his human form at this moment, but still. Now, there's not a whole lot I can say about fighting human Jason. As I've said before, the primary strategy for dealing with Jason Voorhees as when he's human is simply to get him into an open area where I can force a face-to-face confrontation. And I know what you're going to be thinking, Outlaw Samurai, these are best case scenarios. You're not taking into consideration what if Jason attacks you from behind a tree, what if Jason sneak attacks you, and blah 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 blah. Well, here's the thing. If I don't know where Jason is, then clearly he has the advantage. But in these fight scenarios, I'm basically betting on Jason's whole Terminator style of killing. As soon as he sees his target, he will go directly at it. And this has been proven before, like in Jason Voorhees when he gets resurrected in part 6, where we see, I believe his name was Tommy, call Jason from the lake, and Jason immediately gave up attacking the cabin full of school children and the girl to go directly towards him. So Jason can be coaxed out relatively easily. So these best chance scenarios are actually canon to how Jason would react. Especially if I come out and it's like, Jason! And shout out to get his attention, he would immediately beeline towards me. So, in any case, fighting Jason Voorhees, I'm going to basically just refer to him as Hockey Mask Jason. Now, to make the distinction, Hockey Mask Jason is Jason when he's human and has his hockey mask. Undead Jason is pretty much every other iteration after this, until I get to Cyborg Jason. Now, how would I fight Hockey Mask Jason? Well, simply put, like I said, I would lure him into an area where I could take full advantage of the use of my sword and basically carve, slash, stab, and cut him until he no longer can move. Because here's the thing. Whenever you see these, like, fighting, people have the notion that you have to do a big, awesome, powerful finishing move, like Getsuga Tensho! Or something like that, with a sword. And while, yes, they are cool, don't get me wrong, they're impractical as hell. You come charging at someone like this, ah! And their first instinct won't be to draw back and meet your slash. Their first instinct will just be raise blade and stab you. Okay, anyone with any kind of martial skill will know that if an idiot is charging at you like this, you have basically 3 immediate options you can take. 1, raise the blade and stab. 2, sidestep and slash. Or 3, just sidestep and then slash across their back. Sidestep, quarter step, and slash across their back. Anyone going like this is going to ask to be killed. Alright, that's a given. Alright. So, with that in mind, fighting Hockey Mask Jason Voorhees would just pretty much be, like I said, fighting Bagface Jason. Luring him out into the open where I could take advantage of my weapon of choice, which is a sword. Now you may be wondering, well, Outlaw, what if you don't have your sword? What if Jason gets rid of what if Jason causes you to drop the sword or lose the sword or something like that? And fair point. However, here's a counter rebuttal to that. One is the martial arts style that I use, the Howling Wolf style, pretty much sees everything as a weapon. So if I was to lose the sword, as long as there are objects around me, I am not completely helpless. Let's say Jason chases me into the kitchen and I'm able to grab a frying pan. Well, immediately I have a blunt force object. The frying pan has an edge, be it very dull, but still. So if I hit him right, I'd have a chopping implement. I have 2 handles, so I could grab on to the wok. I could grab, if I was to grab a wok in this instance, I could grab onto it, and immediately I have a jabber that I could use to crush his esophagus. And if need be, it can also function as a pseudo shield. So if Jason was to strike with his machete, I could deflect the machete off the walk and then bam! Bash Jason in the side of the head. Or bash Jason in his arm and then swing back up. And then continue to onslaught him. The onslaught. And discombobulate Jason enough to get away. That's the glory of a fighting style like mine, where every possible conceivable object around you immediately becomes a weapon. Even something like a tape measure. Alright? You pull hard enough, this edge will cut through flesh. I could wrap the tape measure around Jason's throat and choke him. This is metal. This is a metal band. I am not pulling this apart. I could pull with all my might and choke him and even twist back and forth like a saw-like motion gashing into Jason's throat. Can of WD-40. Blunt force and distraction. Like a pepper spray. Hell, even pot lids. Mini bucklers. Okay? Block the machete and then bash. Or block the machete and gash. Even these pot lids become defensive and offensive weaponry. There's also the classics of if I'm able to pick up a sledgehammer. This becomes a weapon when it's used to attack somebody. It stops being a tool then. Which, in my belief, I believe that tools and weapons, they share interchangeable descriptions based on what you're using them for. If you're using, for example, a sword to cut wood, then it could be classified as a tool. But if you're using a hammer to bash somebody in the head, then it could be classified as a weapon, because the definition of a weapon is a tool used to cause bodily harm or death to an individual, and the definition of a tool is an item used to do a specific task or function. So I believe those can be interchangeable in how they're used. Even if I was to pick up the OG classic campground slasher weapon of an axe, okay? I would not want the axe as my first choice. If I'm being completely honest, it's heavy, it's cumbersome. I would much rather prefer picking up the sledgehammer before I would pick up this axe. Just simply because this axe is large, it's cumbersome. Now, I know what you're going to say, outlaw, this is a fireman's axe. It's designed to be that way to get through wooden doors and all kinds of other shit. Also, campground axes are about 3 pounds, so they're much lighter. Granted, I'm not arguing that. But still, I would not immediately go for an axe like that. Now, something like this, which is my camping axe, the axe I'd take with me if I was on a camping trip. Something like this, the Cold Steel Trail Boss. Yeah, I would honestly pick something like this up just because of how light it is. I can use it one-handed. I have a bludgeoning side. I have an axe and a blade side. I need to clean this. I need to clean the rust off of that. But yeah. So if you're going to tell me that, what if Jason causes you to lose your sword? It's not the end of the world for me. The sword is my preferred weapon, and is the weapon I am most skilled in using. But it's not the end of the world if I have to pick up something else, as I just demonstrated with the trail boss. And if my damn pants would quit falling down. Even if I have to just use a sticky stick. As Shadowversity would say, the stick, the ultimate weapon. Even if I had just this common stick, which is about the size of a quarterstaff, I still have bludgeoning, I still have striking, and if I had to, I could just use it like a sword and combat Jason that way. The advantage of this is that I can choke up and down and use different grips and positions versus a sword. However, a sword does more lethal damage. This is quarterstaffs and staffs in general are more non-lethal, lethal damage. Like, it will do lethal damage if you hit somebody enough and hit somebody hard enough, but it won't instantly do lethal damage. Sword will. So if I had to fight Hockey Face Jason, all of Camp Crystal Lake is a weapon to me. Right? There is not a single article of arts and crafts. There's arts and craft supplies, there's tools, hell, there's archery equipment there. I am not strapped or short-handed when it comes to pick-up weaponry. Alright? Now, with that being said, if I was to just either have to fight Jason Hockey Face with a camping axe like this or a staff, how would I do it? Well, with the camping axe, I would actually use the pole more than I would use the edge. What I mean by that is, a striking face does not get stuck in something as easily as an edge will. So I could bash Jason in the head, causing him to become discombobulated, and then switch the axe around and slash at his leg, causing him to fall, and then I would flip the axe around again and just bash in his skull. Or if I wanted to, I don't know, get the style points, I'd use the edge and split his skull like a piece of lumber. Therein lies the other question. What if I'm using a quarterstaff? Well, simply put, blunt force damage again. However, there's one key difference here, and that is with the quarterstaff, I can't do nearly as much lethal damage. So what I would attempt to do in this scenario with the quarterstaff is actually just wildly beat Jason as much as I can, causing him to be thrown off balance, and hopefully drop his machete. And once that machete is out of Jason's hands, I would then deliver a couple more quick, powerful blows to continually discombobulate him, and I would then I would get rid of this thing. I would throw it as far away from me as I possibly could and beeline for that machete. And once I have that machete and Jason is unarmed, I would charge Jason while he's still unarmed. and I would hack and slash at him. I would hack and slash at his arms. I would hack and slash at his legs. I would basically quick move around Jason, slashing and hacking at him until either he falls to the ground or he starts to succumb to blood loss. Once I have Jason on the ground, even without my sword, and I have the machete in my hand, then I would just immediately keep hacking at his spine. And what I mean by that is I would keep hacking away at the spinal cord of his neck, completely severing his head from his body. Because here's the thing, we've never seen Jason be killed via decapitation. And although, as he goes later on in power, especially with the whole Revenant undead thing, Jason Voorhees, once he becomes undead, we never see anyone ever try a decapitation or blowing off his head. So, my theory is that if you manage to decapitate Jason, you may very well either be able to kill him or at least turn him non-lethal, because his head would no longer, because his body would no longer be able to react. His body would either continually move and the head would still be alive, or the body would cease to function and all that would be left alive would be Jason's head. Then all you gotta do is just burn the body to ash, burn Jason's head. I may have just inadvertently finished off the other two videos, but I will be making more videos on Jason. 20 minutes. So, in conclusion, I hope I have basically proven that even if I'm left without my trusted sword, a fight between me and Jason would not end well for him, especially in his human form, and especially with the way my mind works, seeing every possible conceivable object around me as a weapon. Even these Yu-Gi-Oh tins and these steel wool balls. Weapons. Effective weapons? No. Weapons that I could use as a distraction by throwing to grab something more deadly? Yes. Even something as innocent as this kerosene heater knob. I get my hands on it and it's become weaponized. So, in conclusion, even if I was to be left without my sword and I still had to fight Hockey Mask Jason, I honestly don't foresee me losing to any iteration of Jason Voorhees prior to zombification. Now, after zombification, my options become much more limited and my strike and my target zones become much fewer. But I will also be doing a thing where I review how to fight the Revenant Undead Jason. So until next time, my noble band of outlaws, outlaw samurai tells all y'all, be crazy rednecks, be safe when using your weapons, and don't go near Camp Crystal Lake. I'm out. Peace.